The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Hooray for Hollywood, where stars are living large, in mansions with their servants and their credit cards in charge, with fame that's fleeting, but the egos never change, where everyone's a genius, except the ones who really arrange. Hooray for Hollywood, where the scandals always sell, where every whispered secret is a new tabloid's tell. Oh, how we adore the endless red carpet galore. Hooray for Hollywood, where less is always more.
Yes, indeedy, lemon squeezy. Less is always more here on Damn You Hollywood, a Radulich Broadcasting premier podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are in fact listening to this here Damn You Hollywood. I'm how does this go again?
You're good, man. Keep going. It's okay. Keep going.
And Robert Winfree. Yay!
We got there. Hey, everybody. I'm Robert. That's Mark. We're all going to forgive Mark for being a little bit flustered tonight. He's had a 48-hour stretch that. Yeah. What's the Nick Nolte movie, Midnight Run?
Ooh.
Or there is one called 48 Hours. I can't remember if that's Nolte.
48 Hours is Nick Nolte and
that's
Benny Hill. Take two. Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy. There it is. Sorry. Not a lot of oxygen to the brain in the last 12 hours and not a lot of sleep in the last 72. So I'm going to try to get through this.
The last 3 years? I was going to say, your sleep deprivation, the last 3 years?
Yeah, roughly. We're joined by Alexis Hejna once again. How are you, sweetie?
Doing good. I actually broke out my pink and green jewelry for tonight. Wanted to be in theme.
Well, aren't you festive? And what festivities are we engaging in tonight, brother?
Well, tonight, Mark, we're engaging in, you know what I need to do? I need to find a few different holidays in different languages that I can just draw on randomly when we do this kind of thing. So I can just spout off something in Russian no one's going to fact check me on.
I was going to say, I would love for you to just and what festivities are we engaging with tonight? And Robert goes into a 20-minute rant about Kwanzaa, and I can't stop him. I can't mute him or anything. It's just
it was created in the 1960s by a professor in the United States. It's not a real holiday. But
I got you covered. Today, December 9th, is technically Christmas Card Day, Genocide Prevention Day, International Day of Veterinary Medicine, International Day of Commemoration and Dignity of the Victims of the Crime of Genocide and the Prevention of this Crime, National Llama Day, National Opal Apples Day, National Pastry Day, Techno Day, VC Bird Day, whatever the hell that is, and something called Weary Willie Day. Oh, and Tanzania Independence Day.
Thanks, Bubba. Well, Robert, what are we talking about tonight?
Well, I would like to talk about llamas since that got brought up, and how important they are as a pack animal for the Southern Hemisphere.
That does bring an interesting question. Llamageddon for the Easter Review alternative commentary. What do you think with Jonas? Because we're doing The Merry Gentleman for Christmas because it's a holiday movie, but I'm going to need something for Easter, and I'm thinking Llamageddon. What do you think?
Llamageddon's a real thing?
Llamageddon's a real thing.
When you get
bored when Robert and I are talking, look it up on Amazon.
You'd be amazed what's a real thing these days.
Yeah. Anyway.
I can't stop you, so go for it. The Holiday Llama.
Robert, what are we talking about tonight?
Well, we're talking about Wicked, Part 1. Mark, and with the runtime approximating that of The Irishman, we have Part 1 of 2.
Yep. Wicked, also known as Wicked Part 1, which I will address in a moment because I need to do a mini rant on that, is a 2024 American musical fantasy film directed by Jon M.
Allegedly.
Of Step Up fame, and written by Winnie, Holzman, and Dana Fox, with songs by Stephen Schwartz, who's as big as mine. It is the first of a two-part film adaptation of the stage musical of the same name, based on the 1995 novel, which in turn is based on the Oz books and the 1939 film The Wizard of Oz. Yes, this is the Russian doll of musicals. The film covers the first musical act. It stars Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba Thropp and Ariana Grande-Butera as Galinda Upland, with Jonathan Bailey, Ethan Slater, Bowen Yang, Marissa Bode, Peter Dinklage, Michelle Yeoh, and Jeff Goldblum rounding out the principal cast. It is set in the land of Oz before the events of the wonderful Wizard of Oz. It follows Elphaba, the future Wicked Witch of the West, and her friendship with classmate Galinda, the future Glinda the Good.
Yeah, those are things that it allegedly does.
All right, well, since I'm the setter, let me set the ball so Robert.
Well, hang on. You said you wanted to have a mini rant about the part 1 thing. So
I was trying. Oh, yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. I just it's not symmetrical. They advertise this thing as Wicked, and I don't know who they keep, why they had to keep this a secret or whatever, and not that the secret wouldn't get out immediately that this was part 1. It's the first thing you see is Wicked part 1. And and maybe if you're not paying that close attention to the movies or movie news or whatever, you're in the audience going, "Oh, fuck me, we're not getting the whole movie." But I don't really know how many people had that reaction. Either way, this thing is still being advertised as Wicked and only on screen as Wicked Part 1. But the next one is going to be advertised as Wicked Part 2. This is asymmetrical, and that really bothers me. I don't understand why we needed to do this. Just say up front. It's and I have the same problem with Mission Impossible. At the very least, they just threw the whole fucking thing out and and decided to rename the next one because it was supposed to be Dead Reckoning Part 1 and Dead Reckoning Part 2, and now they've decided it's Final Reckoning.
I assume Final Reckoning tested better as a title.
If I may, I'm starting to think that marketing teams actually think that putting part 1 in your advertising is dooming it, because we had this exact same conversation about Spider-Man Across the Universe. In fact, majority of movies that have been to be continued or have been a continuation, I would say in the last 15 to 20 years, have never included part 1 in their promotional advertising.
I don't understand what the point of any of this was. And it's mildly irritating to me that instead of, I don't understand why there's this need to mess with the audience. Just say what your product is. Don't try to be cute. Don't try to don't try to manipulate things because you think this, it's the difference between $1 million more or less. Just make your movie, name it, and if it's part 1 of 2, then say it's part 1 of 2. Especially something like this where people know the musical. They know what they're going to get here. It would be nice to know going in, you're only getting the first half of the story. And again, I guess there are some movies where I keep thinking Back to the Future, but the Back to the Future to be continued thing was more of we're just having fun with this. They weren't intending to do a second one. I'm just thinking of other movies where they know going in that there's going to be more than one of these. This is set up for a trilogy or a sequel or whatever.
Well, they didn't. They didn't do it with it. Would be one of the other more recent ones. Part 1 was just end of chapter 1 at the end of the movie instead of being advertised that way.
I was thinking about
they didn't do it with the Matrix. They had always planned on the Matrix. Those part 2 and part 3, but they didn't.
Right, I was gonna say I was gonna say that they also didn't call them part 1 or part 2. They were giving them funny names like Reloaded and remixed and remastered and whatever else they were calling it.
Recycled, rehashed.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those stupid things to bother about, but it bothered me.
Regresses.
It just. And we can go into the next thing after this. I don't want to spend too long on it, but it really irritated me that in the marketing for this, they didn't just call it Wicked Part 1. Who are you guys trying to fool here?
It aggravated me that we were here for 2 hours and 40 minutes to do part 1 of a play of a musical that's 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah,
it's gonna take them 5 hours when this is all said and done to do this.
Yeah, that's been a lot of the complaints about it is that they stretch this thing out to what's going to end up being 5.5 to 6 hours for a play that ends in under 3 hours, and it was why did you need to pad this so much? Go ahead, Alexis.
Again, I'm actually starting to think. I could be totally wrong, but I think there might be proof in marketing research that if you put part 1 in front of a movie, it
Mhm.
could do worse. That's just what I'm thinking. I'm wondering if the studios execs were saying, no, you can't put part 1 in there. It will diminish returns. That would make sense.
So here's a thought. Don't do it then. Just make your 3-hour movie. Or make it 4 hours and give us an intermission. There used to be that, you know.
Oh yeah, those used to be a thing. They're not a thing anymore, but they used to be.
I know something that got brought up in one of the other podcasts I listened to, it might have been critically acclaimed, this will be the last thing I mention, is that there's this habit of splitting books into 2 movies. They did it with the last Harry Potter. They did it with the last Twilight movie. You know, they just like this. And
They did it with the
thing.
Hobbit trilogy.
They did it with
Did
the
it with the
Hobbit
Hunger
trilogy.
Games.
Yeah, like this
At
isn't
least
necessary.
you had a mild excuse with Harry Potter 7 because that's a big book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was split the Hunger Games third one into 2 parts. Like the fuck you will.
Yeah.
Same thing with Twilight. It was like nobody cares
Why?
enough.
Yeah, like this is a cheap cash grab, and it's very obvious.
I'll tell you why. Because everyone takes the wrong lessons from the Return of the King. They took the wrong lessons from Lord of the Rings, which is by itself 3 books. And they made 1 book, 1 movie. There was a 1-to-1 thing here. But they it's so funny. I'm gonna just real quick indulge me for a second with this. So the Return of the King features 2, at a minimum, 2 really big battle sequences. You have the Battle of Pelennor Fields, and then you have the Battle at the Gates of Mordor. And I don't, and they're there because they're in the book. That's it. That's what happens in the book. And everyone kind of looked at that and went, everyone who makes movies looked at that and went, well, we have to have, our last movie has to feature everybody running at each other. And, we have to have a big battle sequence where everyone runs at each other. Because it worked in Return of the King, so we have to keep doing this. And I'm thinking more specifically about Twilight, where they took that battle at the end of Twilight, and it was from what I've been told. I think my ex-wife read those books, and she was like, that whole movie is like a dream sequence that's like 2 pages in the book or some shit.
Give or take, yeah.
There is no dream sequence. There is no. They literally. The 2 sides show up. One side says, you've broken a law. The other side says, no, here's our proof. Proof here. Oh, okay. We're good then. That's literally it.
That's slightly exaggerated. There's okay. I read those books in a spate of insomnia that lasted about 48 hours, so I'm not legally responsible for that decision. Just by the by.
Way to cover your ass within the first 3 seconds.
But I have read all of them, believe it or not.
It's just like, again, it's like they feel like these movies have to have some like epic battle sequence that resembles the Battle of Pelennor Fields, and I'm like, look, don't do the Battle of Pelennor Fields unless your original source material has a Battle of Pelennor Fields. Why are we doing this? They're like, I'm afraid as fuck to find out what they're gonna do with the second Wicked movie.
Why?
It's like gonna have Elphaba with an army of monkeys, and and the Tin Woodsman and the Scarecrow, leading an army of Munchkins, and they're all gonna run at each other like Civil War.
Well, hang on. Don't be scared about what they're going to do with Wicked Part 2. Be scared what they're going to do with Snow White.
Yeah, well, that too.
Because she's going to rally the villagers, and we're going to get the big fight with the palace guard. Yeah. That's going to be a thing.
We talked about this last week. Do we have to go through it again?
No, we don't. But I was also
I'm just agreeing with Mark's point. We don't have to dogpile Snow White. It's just another example.
So the last thing I'll say here is that because I'm sure somebody's thinking is like he's not remembering Endgame. Endgame earned that final battle.
Yes.
It was everybody who's ever been in the Marvel universe versus Thanos and his fuck all army that had showed up hither and yon throughout these movies. We were leading to this fight. It's perfectly fine that it was there. It was the big finale to this 10 years this 10-year movie series. But again, not everything has to end with a big giant fuck all battle. If it makes sense, do it. If it doesn't, you don't have to. Nor do you have to cut your source material in half. And the last example of this being the exact opposite of Return of the King, the Battle of the Five Armies, which is like a 2-page skirmish in The Hobbit, of which Bilbo is knocked out for.
In fairness, it's a 2-page skirmish because The Hobbit is designed to be a kid's book.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're making a book for kids, when the butchery starts, you don't want to put that on the page. So conveniently, your POV character is rendered unconscious.
Sure.
Bilbo missed the punchy parts.
So everybody is here waiting, like, all right, talk about the movie. Nope. Instead, Robert would like to lead a discussion on what hath Gregory Maguire wrought, and what are we doing here with the villains in our fiction?
Yeah, I'll be pretty brief about this. I've mentioned this in the last few episodes, but if this is your first time hearing my sort of take on this, I don't mind deconstructions of ideas or of stories, provided they're done correctly. And it's weird to say there's a right way to do a deconstruction, but there's a bad way to do deconstructions, and there's been a lot of those. A good deconstruction makes you re-examine. That's really all it does. But part of the problem with a lot of modern deconstruction, and some of this I do think goes back to Wicked in particular. Now, there's an argument to be made that we would have gotten here anyway.
Yep, we talked about that in the Gladiator review.
We did. So allow me to simply acknowledge that, yeah, I'm not saying that Wicked was the progenitor, like it tapped into something. My sentiments on this would be the same no matter what did that first. So I'm not saying Wicked is unique. It was just the first. But because you're the first and you kind of spark the avalanche, you do bear the brunt of criticism as a result. The desire to look, a good deconstruction aims at like a genre. It doesn't aim at a story. Deconstructing a story is a really dicey proposition. And the glut of, hey, what if all the bad guys were really misunderstood good guys that we got in the wake of Wicked is a little bit nauseating. It's why we turned Maleficent into, I was the victim of a very poor analog for sexual assault. And poor Charlito Copley's terribly out of place Scottish accent. And then, for some reason in the sequel, Angelina Jolie has like 10 individual lines of dialogue. It's a weird movie. It's why Cruella suddenly becomes the misunderstood underground pop star of fashion in the roaring 70s of London with all the stupid music attached to it. Not here to rehash that debate. That's my personal take on the style of Cruella. But this is kind of why we've started to see these. This is why if you go to speculative fiction in your Barnes and Noble section, everything is going to be, hey, it's another take on the women of Troy. Hey, what if so-and-so from Greek mythology, what if some female character from Greek mythology wasn't the bad guy? What if Medusa was really just a misunderstood heroine and that evil Perseus lopped her head off? And I'm just... This story spawned 8 billion copies. And we are all poorer for it. That's kind of the sum total of my antipathy towards it. Wicked itself is fine. It's not great. It's not a very enticing read. But I've read worse. I just copped to reading Twilight. Like, I've read worse. But this is just one of those things that spawns a school of thought or a school of, and it's not just thought, it's really the publishing, because the publishing can't create trends for the life of them. All they can do is chase them.
I want to interject here something that I said on the Gladiator review when we discussed this, but it bears repeating for this discussion. I think they were meeting a demand that was already there. What I said in Gladiator, and what I'm going to repeat now, is there is a need for a vast majority of people in the population, at least in Western culture, to validate irresponsibility, to validate immaturity, to validate, I don't remember the exact phrase of it, and words are hard right now, but living like a child well into your adulthood. Arrested Development.
Okay. I think the other thing that kind of gets me about this story in particular, it's one thing to kind of champion, the bad guys, and hey, let's examine this from the villain's perspective, which at this point is so overdone it has no value for the record. But the fact that you're the sort of opposite number to that all of these people wind up at and they think they're doing something revelatory is, what if the Paragon hero was actually just a bag of dicks? Like, and again, this is something
that's what I'm saying. You cut me off, but that was the point that I was trying to get at. We have done a systemic in 20, 30 years now, systemic deconstruction and reduction of the hero, the traditional hero, and in some cases, the virtue of masculinity. I don't want to throw other words in there because people could take the wrong idea from it, but there's a lot of traditional tropes that have been deconstructed for the purposes of people saying that they're bad because the opposite gives people a validation for real shit behavior. And so was Gregory Maguire serving a need for people to read in their fiction about a thing they were already feeling and already wanting? Probably. Was he himself of that mindset? I don't know. I don't know the guy. But, it's when you lay the blame at the artist and the art, you take the responsibility off the population that devoured this sort of thing, which I'm not a huge fan of that line of thinking. It's kind of like you get the politicians you deserve. You get the governors you deserve. When you are not educating yourself and when you are voting with your emotions, you get the people you deserve. Okay, and I think you get the fiction you desire when that's what people are paying for. And so it's hard for me to be mad at Wicked for that reason.
Counterpoint, if I may.
Absolutely. Having a discussion.
I have something to say too whenever you guys.
Okay.
Hang on, let her cut in because we're doing a lot of man back and forth here. So let the lady have a turn.
I just think that it's hard to point at Wicked for this because, well, it kind of is and it kind of isn't. Because the examples that you brought up are Disney. And I brought this up in the Gladiator to review and I stand by it. It is abundantly clear that Disney has been kicking themselves constantly for not getting to option Wicked. To the fact that
somebody got fired over that, I'm fairly sure.
To the fact that Frozen is basically the Snow Queen with Wicked tossed into the blender. I mean, has anyone else realized that Let It Go is a blatant reflection of Defying Gravity? They are the same song.
Yeah, pretty much.
They got Idina Menzel to play Elsa. You think that was a coincidence? No, they were trying to capture what Wicked had given them. That movie Frozen was supposed to be a classic retelling of the Snow Queen until they decided to Wicked it up. And the fact that, yes, all of these films that Robert brought up, Maleficent, Loves to Cruella, those are Disney films. Disney has been at the forefront of this. They are the ones who are saying, well, we're just like Wicked. We're just like Wicked. So is it really fair to hate Wicked when it's Disney that has taken all the wrong lessons from the success of this play?
No, I think Disney is looking to feed the appetite of women who want this sort of thing. And they want it to validate their own behavior. And I'm sure that's going to make me a lot of enemies. But I also had my son say on TikTok, "Father, why must you consort with whores?" I'm not afraid to get myself in trouble.
Well, look, let me just make my counterpoint to what your point was. A lot of people pay a lot of money for meth. Doesn't mean I'm happy with the person who came up with it.
That's fair. I think there's enough anger and frustration to go around to both the buyer of meth and the maker of meth.
I'm just saying, like, the notion that, well, there's an audience for it, ergo.
I don't want to cut you off because I hate when we do this to each other, but I can already tell you this is very much a Robert's core philosophical belief thing that is expressing itself in this argument.
I'm aware.
Okay.
I'm very aware of that.
I just now realized that, so I'm done, and I'm going to let you have the last word. Because at this point, I'm trying to convince you, or we're having a discussion, and this is now a faith thing, and I don't mean that in the religious sense. Your argument stems from a core part of who you are as a person. There's nothing I'm going to say that's going to change that. your witness.
Well, again, for the record, I don't disagree with you that there is an audience for this, and if all you care about is, the old saying that you'll never go wrong appealing to the lowest common denominator. There's a lot of truth in that.
I think it's on our flag now, right next to "Don't Tread on Me."
Why do you poke me when you know that I know what that flag's actually about, and it's not about the...
Now, my point is,
Please, God, don't go down that rabbit hole, I beg of you.
It's not about the Revolutionary War. It was commissioned for the First Continental Congress. It's nothing to do
all
with...
I'm saying is that it's
thing.
like one of those, like in God we trust, and you'll never go hungry feeding the lowest common denominator.
My point is simply, I don't care that there's a lowest common denominator. I think that if you're going to create, there is at least part of what you do that should be aspirational, that should draw you to try and raise the lowest common denominator instead of lowering it constantly.
Yep, we are at loggerheads on that, and I don't want to sidebar into a philosophical discussion, but you and I philosophically could not be more like 180 degrees.
Well, again, I don't I'm not foolish enough to pretend that...
I'm just saying I have come to a different place in my life, my friend, fuck, Robert. I'm trying to be better. I'm trying.
It's okay. I accept that the inverse is profitable.
Mm-hmm.
I just, as a worldview thing, look at people catering to that and go, you're just, for some reason, we're getting closer and closer to just spewing pornography. And I find that to be a terrible thing.
It's so funny. You're gonna hate me for this, so just go to the plot synopsis. Let me have my funny moment here, and roll your eyes at me, and but you're like Falcon right now, and here's this the rest of us, and you're flying around, and you land. You're like, perverts, be better.
Okay, hang on. In fairness, let me just very briefly respond to that.
Sure.
Very briefly.
And then go into the plot synopsis, please.
The gripe about how the cringe, for the lack of a better descriptor, part of that speech is what Falcon's responding to.
Sure.
He is asked, so what do we do? He's asked specifically, hey, we've got problems. If you're going to put on that suit and you're going to stand there and lecture us, how about a policy suggestion? And his response is, do better? That's useless.
I get that. It's so you right now. In your spangly Captain America outfit and wings, yelling at the rest of us to be better, and getting as far as anyone else has ever done doing that.
I'm just saying...
Lamageddon, 82% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Woo! All right.
So the plot synopsis for Wicked goes kind of as follows. We are in the land of Oz. We are in Munchkin Land. And apparently a Munchkin in this new Oz is not a midget. It's anyone under 5'8".
I think that's the way that was actually described in the original book. I think it was the MGM film that basically took the word Munchkin and ran with it.
Decent chance. I have read all of the Oz books, and there's several of them. It's been a long time since I've done so, so forgive me for falling short in some of my recollections of that.
2 sentences
Likewise.
into the plot synopsis.
Only thing I really remember is the river that goes both ways. Depending
The
on
only
what
thing
time
I
of day
really
it goes.
remember is the emerald glasses.
I'm about to go both ways. This movie is 3 days long, so please get through this plot synopsis in
It's
200.
3 days.
Hang on, I had a request from Jesse. Finish this plot synopsis in 200 characters.
Can I tweet this out? Okay. You know what? All right. I'll challenge accepted.
For God's sakes,
the
Jesse, we're not ChatGPT.
The governor of Munchkin Land's wife is a whore. She cheats on him with Jeff Goldblum.
Yep.
It's not revealed it's Jeff Goldblum, but anyone can tell
Jeff.
that's him saying it's not supposed to be revealed.
Look,
yet.
You don't hire Jeff Goldblum and then pretend Jeff Goldblum is not in your movie.
You're over 200 characters.
I'm aware. Just sidebar. This is not the plot synopsis. That's about as fruitful as saying, hey, Nicolas Cage, totally not this guy in Shadow who moves like Nicolas Cage and sounds like Nicolas Cage after we've made clear Nicolas Cage is in our movie.
All right, Alexis, please stop interrupting him. I want to get through this. Go.
So, cheats on her husband with the Wizard of Oz, who is in fact Jeff Goldblum. And something about what they were drinking or doing causes Elphaba to come out green as a green person with a lot of innate magical ability. And her father is a bigot, so he sends her to be raised by bears. I mean, literally, there is a talking bear that raises her.
Go ahead.
She has a sister who's born crippled, can't use her legs. And Elphaba is the subject of derision from children because she's different. Allegedly. More on that later. They grow up. Her sister, Nessa Rose, is accepted into
Shiz University.
Mm-hmm. This is what passes for writing. Elphaba goes with them to drop her off. Here we meet Galinda, who totally doesn't have 8 million foot pics on the internet. Sorry, I digress. And this movie did nothing to help that ratio. I swear Tarantino subdirected this. At the big orientation meeting, Elphaba displays magical ability. So Michelle Yeoh wanders out of the darkness and goes, "You will be my one and only student this semester because sorceress power is quite rare. And because we overbooked everything and you weren't actually supposed to be here, we will shove you in the closet with Galinda." And Galinda is trying to get in the good graces of the sorcery teacher because she desperately wants to be magical and just isn't. So regular school shenanigans happen where cliques are formed, bitterness, jibes. A prince arrives who, his name is Fiero, sorry. His Fiero, and he doesn't think. Once again, I must stress, this is what passes for subtle writing.
This is what passes for foreshadowing.
Yeah. We're also introduced to...
But you guys repeat each other.
We also are introduced to Bach, the Munchkin woodsman, who plays around with the hearts of others.
And
Can you see it dying? Is the light leaving my eyes slowly?
Come on, Rob.
In all fairness, they added a lot more foreshadowing in the movie than they did in the stage play. It is not this blatantly obvious.
There's also a very scared lion cub that we get to meet later. So again, usual school shenanigans. Eventually, of course, the odd couple of roommates wind up becoming friends because, of course, they do. And Elphaba is struggling to harness her magical power because it's really tied to her emotional state. And stop me if you've heard that one before.
I did. Fuck, I'm gonna. It's a bad mark. It's not. Well, it's fine when I do it. I actually elbowed my daughter and went, "Damn dirty mutants." I got fat.
We don't miss Wanda at all, and I mean that sincerely. Let that character stay dead. Anyway. But ultimately, Elphaba is able to harness a bit more of her magic when there's an undercurrent of like, oh, the talking animals are being threatened because we need longer plot. There's a bit of a love triangle because who doesn't love a love triangle? Ultimately, Elphaba is able to display some more control over magical power with magical poppies that put people to sleep. Once again, foreshadowing. So she is called to meet the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz, and she takes Ariana Grande with her because Barbie must be front and center. And I only half joke about that comparison. They get to the Emerald City. There's a play. There's the two leads of the stage musical so they can get their cameo in for all the musical theater nerds. We then go to meet the wizard and we meet Jeff Goldblum, who has wandered onto set. I imagine, and it's Jeff Goldblum. And he kind of reveals that he's a fraud because we all know the wizard's a fraud at this point. This is part and parcel for what's going on. But there's a magical book that Elphaba can read from fluently, and she gives the monkeys their wings. Oh, this is where the winged monkeys come from. And she realizes, though, that the wizard has no actual power and that he's the one who's been rounding up the talking animals and has developed the superior technology of the cage, Mark. The cage is a new invention. And Elphaba will not stand for any of this. There's a big sequence through the wizard's tower. She is condemned as being a wicked witch. She enchants a broom to fly. Big musical number. She F's off. Elphaba's father has a heart attack when he hears the news. Glinda, who changed her name in solidarity with the oppressed people of Gaza. I mean, with the oppressed people of Ukraine. I mean, with the talking animals. There we go. That's the metaphor we're going with, right? Because the goat couldn't actually pronounce the in her name. It was just Galinda. And so she changed her name. And she gets embraced by the sorcery teacher, and she will learn what I assume is fake magic for the next half, because I remember enough of what happens there that I could just prattle on. But that's where it ends. And come back for part 2, please, where
Alexis,
we will drag this out even longer.
All right, Alexis, the floor is yours.
Okay, so I have seen Wicked on stage. I took my mother to see it. Right before the pandemic hit, actually. It was her birthday present. We had fun. The only downside was I couldn't afford very good theater tickets, so we were way back. So it's literally like, I think that little green dot is the Wicked Witch. You know, note to self, I need to buy opera glasses. But we had fun, really enjoyed it. So I was looking forward to this. I do remember us worrying about the casting, especially with Cynthia Erivo, because the last thing we saw her in that we reviewed was she was the Blue Fairy in that horrible live action Pinocchio. And we all joked, as like, wow, I have never seen an actor convey so clearly they don't want to be here.
So real
Would have
quick,
been impressive.
I don't want to cut into your craft review, but since you brought that up, so my son, his first words out of his mouth when the movie was over was, "Yeah, I don't think the lady playing Elphaba can sing." And I looked at him and I went, "You know, she's won Tony Awards, right?" And he was like, "I didn't, and I don't care." I fucking heard you coming out of his mouth. Like, "I didn't, and I don't care. I don't think the woman can carry a tune. This was hard to get through because I don't like her singing."
You don't like her singing, that's fine, but the woman is a Broadway legend.
I'm aware of that. I made that argument to the 10-year-old.
Yeah,
I just thought it was hilarious.
And I think she's amazing. Hell, I even remember joking.
Most humans do. I told him to his face he's not in the majority on that one. Actually, my exact words to him were, "You're entitled to your opinion, Jonas. If it bothered your ears, it bothered your ears. Your opinion's wrong." And that was that.
But I even remember us joking in the Pinocchio review that, like I said, her performance as the Blue Fairy, she clearly was not giving it her all until she sang "When You Wish Upon a Star."
Right.
And I said, I am guaranteeing they approached her. She's like, "I don't know. We'll let you sing the title song." Okay, I'm in.
The comment that William Bibiani, I think it was, made about her and critically acclaimed was, she can sing fantastically. What she can't do is sing and act at the same time.
Yeah, I would agree with that, actually.
Like I said, but yeah, I remember us having anticipation, especially with Ariana Grande, who I forget actually got her start as an actress. She was on a Nickelodeon show.
Let's just not talk about what Dan Schneider did to her and a bunch of her co-stars.
Obviously, but that's neither here nor there. But she has acting experience. It's not like they said, "Oh, we can just get a pop star off the streets and do this." No, I thought she was good as Galinda or Glinda, where you want to call her.
She's also got stage theater experience, doesn't she?
I think so. Yeah, no, she sounded great. And I thought she played the role real. I was very impressed because I am not a fan of her pop music.
I'll say it now. I think she's the best part of this movie. Ariana Grande, for my money, killed it in this.
Like
She's
I said,
better Barbie than Margot Robbie.
Shut up. I like I said, I was not expecting to like her because I really can't stand her pop music. She
Right.
sounds like she's singing with a mouthful of peanut butter half the time. She's like all of her words mumbled and like sloshed together. But she really brought something else as Glinda, and I was like, whoa, okay, this is not pop star Ariana Grande. This is something else. I'm impressed. I am not going to get on the soapbox preaching about the whole foreshadowing and blah blah blah. It's like, yes, there is obvious foreshadowing. It was in the stage play, it was in the original Wicked book. I am not going to just be like, well, if you don't like all the foreshadowing and the Easter eggs, especially since, like I mentioned, a lot of that was added for the movie. I mean, the whole Bach being like Buck Woodsman, the last name is not in the play. They don't say that. You don't realize he's the Tin Woodsman until he actually goes through the transformation. Spoiler alert. So I'm going to talk instead about what I thought were some of the real positive stands out, and among them is the production design. This movie looks amazing. Jon M really fought the studio because they wanted to do so much of this in CGI and on green screen, and he said no. Majority of these sets are practical. The costumes are phenomenal. That scene of them dancing in the library with the rotating bookshelves is absolutely incredible. I was blown away by the size and scale of this movie and how gorgeous it looked. So if this thing doesn't get Oscars for production design and costumes, I am going to be shocked.
Yeah, let me cut in real quick. I think it's going to be nominated for almost all of the physical craft elements, costumes, set design, makeup, all of that. I think if it doesn't win, it's going to get a lot of nominations for physical craft.
Yeah, I'm just going to say
it'll also get nominated for best adaptation.
Oh yeah,
there's no way it should get that. I think you're right.
A nomination?
Yeah.
Are you saying it shouldn't be nominated, or are you saying it can get nominated but it shouldn't win?
I would argue it shouldn't be nominated, but that's just me.
Okay,
I can live with it being nominated.
The only reason why I would even seek to fight you on that would be I would need to see a list of all the adapted movies this year from source material, and do a compare and contrast. Given that we don't have that list, and the Oscar nominating committee tends to make populist choices because they're afraid people won't watch if they don't. People
don't watch even when they do at this point.
You would be insane to think that they're not going to nominate Wicked when it's an obvious choice. To quote the great Saint Snoop from Robert's favorite show, The Wire, deserve ain't got nothing to do with it.
So, yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed this movie, but I also enjoyed the musical. I had a lot of fun watching it. I thought it was very faithfully portrayed. I loved all of the actors. I even liked Jeff Goldblum singing. Okay, I didn't know the man could sing, but I thought he was good. Not stellar,
anything else?
But good.
I don't want to get off on a sidebar tangent for an hour. But
the only thing I knew was that he could. The only thing I know is that he can play piano.
Okay.
But I don't think I've ever heard him sing.
Okay.
Or anything, but I thought he was good.
I would be shocked if he hasn't sung in something before.
Probably did. I just haven't seen it.
Yeah. It's not worth Googling right now.
Yeah. Loved Michelle Yeoh's Man of Morrible. Like I said, I just really had a fun time. I thought this was a good sit through. But again, this was something I was looking forward to. And if nothing else, it is a gorgeous, gorgeous film. Love the set design, love the costumes, love the makeup, love the cinematography and the choreography. The dance sequences throughout the movie are beautiful. They're well done and well shot. You can clearly see what's going on. You can keep an eye on which characters you want to keep an eye on. At no point does it become too dizzying or it's like, wow, the camera didn't know where the hell to focus. I mean, Lord knows we've seen enough musicals and movies that have done that. So I liked it, but yeah, it's like if you don't like The Wizard of Oz,
musicals,
okay, I'm just gonna say this: if you're not a huge fan of the original MGM Wizard of Oz, I guess I can understand it a little bit, but I have yet to meet a person who doesn't at least like an aspect of The Wizard of Oz.
Real quick on that, so I can't remember what Jonas raised an objection to at the end, besides Cynthia Erivo singing. He said something, and I was just like, Jonas, you already know that the wizard's a fraud. You know that because you've seen The Wizard of Oz. And he looked at me and he goes, Father, he called me Father. He says, Father, You haven't shown me The Wizard of Oz. I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't read the books. I haven't seen the movie. I don't know what any of this is, and I didn't want to come to this stupid thing. I'm like, oh, well, whoops. We have to show you The Wizard of Oz. I don't know how I managed to show him the show me your tit scene from The Bad Lieutenant, but I didn't show him The Wizard of Oz. Tells you a lot about.
Hang on. He's seen naked, weeping Harvey Keitel, but he hasn't seen Judy Garland sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
It is a major neglect of my
parenting. This explains a bit more than you might think.
Yeah. So I'm gonna try to correct that this weekend with the other 87 million things I gotta do is show him The Wizard of Oz. However, Lily could not have been happier. This was like, probably her favorite movie of the year so far.
No. Enjoyed it. Loved all the Easter eggs. Loved all the little hints, both to the stage production and to the classic Wizard of Oz. Even, it's a stupid little moment, but when they're doing the musical within the Emerald City with Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth, and you have the image of the wizards pretending to read from the Grimoire, if you listen correctly, he's saying, "Oh, ma, ha." And if you remember in the books, where is the wizard originally from?
Right,
Omaha, Nebraska.
Omaha.
So again, it's like I was like, that's cute.
So I read the book when it came out 20 years ago. I remember liking it at the time. This was before 9/11, and I was a different person. I don't know if I would like I'm not kidding about that. I became a much different. Try to take two. I became a much different person after 9/11, and I read a lot differently than I was reading before that. So I don't know if I would enjoy the book now. I have some thoughts about our two female leads in terms of their character writing, not their performances. Them written as characters. I have thoughts. But I read the book when it came out. I liked it back then. I saw the musical when it came out. I saw it on the actual Broadway when it was in its first run.
So and you actually saw Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth?
Sure did.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, I saw it when they were making contemporary jokes about WMDs and George W. Bush. And that got a roaring laugh from the audience and a groan from me.
I'm curious, was this too early for the Let It Go joke that they later added?
Yeah, way early. I was still living in New York when I saw this. So anyway, but I again, that was 20 years ago in a different world and a different time. I don't have a...
I really hate to do this to you, Mark. 30.
Oof.
Book came out in 95. 30.
I'm 90% certain I read it between 2000 and 2001 because I feel like I was living in Massachusetts at the time. That's why I said 20.
Still okay. Still well north of 20.
Okay, that's fine. I like The Wizard of Oz. I've always liked The Wizard of Oz. I've actually played The Wizard twice in a junior high performance and a high school performance. So I enjoy The Wizard of Oz. I don't have like a weird like sentimental attachment to it. I just I like the story. I've read some of the books. I remember the Disney's Return to Oz, Limestone.
That movie is closer in tone to the original books than the original.
Lovecraftian monsters that are in that thing.
Oh, God, people forget just how terrifying the original book is. It's like, I'd like to remind you all how the Tin Woodsman became the Tin Woodsman. Hachak!
So when I saw they were making, when they saw they were making a Wicked musical, I went, well, I hope it's better than Cats. Was exactly my reaction to it. And that's it.
Hard to do worse than Cats.
I was going to say, it's like low hurdle, Mark.
Well, my point is, I don't care. Like, this isn't going to be one of those like impassioned reviews, positive or negative, where like I am like deeply in love with the source material, and I want to say that up front because it's going to color everything I say after. I'm not artificially elevating this because I love the source material. I'm not artificially damning it because I hate the source material. I'm reacting to it as a film critic at this point. Also, I had just come from a immune system treatment that I was getting from my cancer doctor. I was not feeling great while I was watching this, and I dozed off for a good 20 minutes. So I will speak to the parts I saw. I'm in line with Alexis, hard to believe if you've been a fan of the show for the last few years. The production design, besides Ariana Grande, is the star of the show. This looks like a lived-in world. This looks fantastic. I have a lot of the same thoughts I had about this that I had about Wonka, where it was nice to see a good, real feeling, lived-in universe without feeling like this was an animated feature. So it was a good line that you said about, like, John Chu fighting them about CGI. I love the costumes in this. I think the costumes are very otherworldly. Film is supposed to transport you to a different place, and I feel like this successfully did that. I felt like for the 9 hours I watched this movie, I was transported to a whole other place, which is not a feeling I get very often in film these days. The makeup was fantastic. That's something we talk about a lot on here, but it's something that it's worth pointing out. I think they did a great job with Elphaba's makeup. I think they did a good job with Ariana Grande's makeup. I am a fan of musicals, and I've had Popular stuck in my head since I saw this movie. I enjoyed...
It's an earworm.
Yeah, I enjoyed Popular. I enjoyed Defying Gravity. I was kind of bopping in my seat before I passed out to Nobody Mourns the Wicked. I enjoyed the music in this. None of the music bothers me. I don't think any of the music's bad. I think it's well sung. I, unlike my son, think Cynthia Erivo has perfectly fine singing voice. I do agree with the comment about she is great for concert performance, not a great person for acting and singing performance. She tends to have to stop acting to focus on singing. And the singing is phenomenal, but then it kind of just looks like you're singing at a concert. You're not singing as part of the scene. However, who did master that and do very well with it is Ariana Grande. Ariana Grande gives by far, in every element that I can match her up against Cynthia Erivo, the best performance in this movie. She is fucking phenomenal. And I have zero appreciation for anything else Ariana Grande has done or will ever do. I couldn't pick this woman out of a lineup. I couldn't tell who she is versus Shakira or Miley Cyrus or Britney Spears. I don't. This is not my music.
Well, these days you can easily tell who's not Britney Spears, because if the one not wielding the knife is usually a safe bet.
I was gonna say the one like not bald or some shit. My point is, like, singers, songwriters, solo pop artists are not really my genre. The one I know for a fact is Poppy, and it's because she did a metal album and showed up at an NXT pay-per-view. So, but the rest of these bitches...
More than one, but diminishing returns are well in effect for that.
Yeah, that's a straight line down. Yeah, I don't know who any of these bitches are, and I couldn't pick... And the last singer-songwriter I paid any attention to was Madonna, because I'm 100. So...
You're the old man in the mountains.
And I don't want them painted.
Unpainted.
So again, it's not like I'm familiar with her music or anything else she's done, nor do I care about her personal life, and I'm not going to talk about that. But I know that that's a thing with this movie. In any case, I loved her in this. She was the best part of it for me. The part where she's on and doing stuff, I was actually really interested in. I think her songs are great. I think her singing is great. I think the way that she moves in front of the camera was really fun. Like, I like to watch her dance, and I'm not necessarily a big dance person, but I enjoyed the big production numbers where she was leading and, the ensemble that was dancing. I think her and Cynthia Erivo have great sexual chemistry. I enjoyed them together. Like the bit where she does Popular with her and they're kind of screwing around the, not sexually, but kind of like screwing around the room together. And there was a lot of great movement in that scene that I really enjoyed. That's the good stuff. Here's the bad. This is not enough plot for the runtime of this movie. There's no excuse why this thing couldn't have been 3 hours and give us the whole goddamn play. Give us the whole story. That's why I said before, I am afraid of what they're going to do, because they're going to do, it's going to be Elphaba and her army of monkeys versus, the Ozians and the army of munchkins. And it's going to be the, battle of the poppy field. And I'm going to want to shoot myself in the movie theater. Because it took way, way too long to get her to Oz. And when they were there, it felt a little Scooby-Doo-ish, a little running around from different rooms. we are taking, again, the Battle of the Five Armies. We are taking 2 or 3 pages here and stretching it out.
I'll say if I can actually jump on that, you brought up
sure.
a point I almost forgot. Like I said, I took my mother to see the musical, although she admits she doesn't remember all the details.
Yeah.
But even she admitted when we left the theater and I asked her what she thought they spent way too much time at Shiz. And I was like, but you saw the musical. You know how much time all the musical. And she goes, she was like, I don't care.
That's the part I slept through. She has the conversation with Michelle Yeoh. And she goes into the room, and she was like, I was supposed to have a suite to myself. And, and then the next thing I know, they're voguing in front of each other. And I'm getting an elbow from my daughter to stop snoring. So a lot of that stuff in the middle I missed.
No. Just saying that, they probably could have either cut or sped up a lot of the time they spent at Shiz University, because they really did drag their feet getting to the Emerald City.
Yeah, it's too long. I like a good long musical number. Don't get me wrong, but like there was not enough. And I understand, like, we're trying to bring these 2 characters together so that we can break them apart in the end. Okay, you still could have been more efficient about it. This is, I can't remember if it was Gladiator or something else you and I talked about, Robert, where I said, stop trying to make everything epic. It either is or it isn't.
Yeah.
Not everything deserves the Lord of the Rings treatment, but you're treating everything like it's Lord of the Rings, and it's wrong. You're stretching out material. You're blowing it up unnecessarily. People would have liked this movie just the same if it was 3 hours, but you got the whole story. So so while I understand the economics of it, why make one movie when we can make 2 and make twice as much money? Okay, sure. Like, the filthy, stinking capitalist in me gets your point, but your movie suffered because of it.
The guy who has to sit through your film is like, knock it off.
Well, again, if you fill up. Listen, there was plenty of, just to give you a comparison, Endgame is 3 hours.
Yeah.
Was plenty of story in Endgame. That thing's like an opera. But I never once got bored during Endgame. That's not because I'm a dirty, stupid, comic fan. It's because there was a lot of story in that movie. Some would argue a little too much story, but they had to end it at some point. Outside of that, I liked it. Nobody else in the cast. I mean, I like Michelle Yeoh. She's all right. Jeff Goldblum is Jeff Goldblum, and I'm sorry. Every time I watch him now, I just think of his character from the Jurassic World movies.
At this point, I'm fairly convinced for the last 20 plus years, people have hired, ever since Jeff Goldblum got screwed out of an Oscar for The Fly. I'm convinced people hire him and he shows up and goes, I'm going to be Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it.
There's no point in acting. I won't get rewarded for it. And, people will appreciate me just the same, if not more.
Yeah.
My aunt often jokes. She said, it's like Jeff Goldblum doesn't act. Jeff Goldblum comes out of the ground like a fucking cicada, makes a couple of movies, and then goes back into hibernation for a couple of years. It's just like every now and then it's like, and here's Jeff Goldblum.
Well, I said this about Ryan Reynolds. I said, when you don't ask Ryan Reynolds to do anything, just say the line, Bart. Just give us the Deadpool character in different costumes. And that's all you're going to get out of Ryan Reynolds. Can he act? Yes, I've seen him do it. But nobody wants that from him, and so he doesn't give it to you. He'll give you what you ask him for. And if nobody's asking Jeff Goldblum to actually give a performance, then he'll just give you Jeff Goldblum. I don't really have anything else to add, Robert.
I'm going to echo your positives in general about a lot of the production design here is pretty good. The singing is very much not my cup of tea, but it's competent. I don't suffer from earworms out of this, thankfully. Nothing about this movie is going to stick with me in any capacity. It's far too long. It's way overwrought. I joked with one of my brothers because I wound up not being able to go see. They did the re-release in IMAX for Interstellar.
When you're done with this, round back to me because I do want to have a brief conversation about the characterizations of our 2 women because I forgot to mention it, but it's not really a craft thing so much as me complaining.
Okay. But I wasn't able to go see again one of the IMAX showings of the Interstellar re-release. I'm a little bit annoyed about that. Just couldn't make the timing work.
Be
And I got
hilarious
a
if
bit-
you hang on. It'd be hilarious if you had seen this Interstellar and that's the movie you chose to review, and just no sold the whole thing.
You can't
Robert-
you can't understand how close I was.
Robert, what's your craft review of Wicked? Well, you see, Mark, in Interstellar, it just like
So I
nobody
didn't
stops
see the
you.
movie. I went to see the re-release of Interstellar, which I would have rather. If I'm gonna watch a nearly 3-hour, slightly self-indulgent piece of film, I'd rather watch something that's aspirational, designed for the big screen, and I'm interested in.
Moving on.
And here we were with Wicked.
Yeah.
I didn't love the acting. It's fine, but I'm not moved by any of it.
Not even Ariana Grande, huh? She didn't do it for you?
She's fine. Like
Okay.
again, competent. Like my stance on most acting these days, if it doesn't really stick in my head, good or bad, again, here's stuff that's really good that I remember. Here's stuff that's bad that I remember. She is somewhere in this space, and that space doesn't matter.
Fair. Okay.
So is everyone in this movie. Like nothing about any of the acting here is all that relevant.
Yeah.
The writing for this I just found almost painful. It's been way too long since I've read the original Oz books, and again, I have read all of them. I read them when I was, I don't know, much younger, like probably single digits.
Mhm.
Certainly not 12. So I've read all of them. I even remember that the wizard actually gets to become a real wizard by the time you get to book 3, which nobody else seems to remember or talk about all that much, but he actually does get magic. So that is, which is a long way to go to say, I really hate what they do to the English language in this. And freely admit, it's a me thing. This is not like the most objective of criticisms, but the way they mesh up suffixes and prefixes, and it really like nails on a chalkboard almost for my
How do you feel
sensibilities.
about Dr. Seuss then?
It's part of the buy-in for Seuss, and I actually don't like listening to Seuss read
Okay. Keep
for
going.
kind of that same reason. I will read it. I have no problem with it. Listening to some of the wilder Seuss stuff, like spoken and performed, I do struggle a little bit with.
Mhm.
But Seuss also is, by the time you get to those kinds of Seuss books, 80% of it is nonsense anyway. So I'm willing to go with it. This movie is supposed to be like 80% grounded in some kind of realism. When I say grounded in realism, I don't mean, obviously it's not realistic, it's a fantasy. But when you just randomly throw in some of the way they butcher words, it's I'm gonna find you, man, and I'm gonna break your shoulder.
I was disgusted. Fucking Popeye over here.
I will.
We love
I
you,
will
Todd.
just-
Thank you for that.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, but yeah, that kind of language thing, it drives me up the wall. In no small part because I know way too many idiots who talk like that legitimately, who just never bothered to learn how the language works, and I hate them. I really hate people like that.
He murdered
So-
the English. Maroni murdered the English language and everyone that got in his way.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. I'm more okay with that because again, it's deliberately comedic. It's not meant to be played straight, and this is played straight.
Right. He's also like Italian, and
Yeah.
it's accented English.
Some great faux profanity comes out of that though, and it's
You farragon bastards.
I'm
Keep
gonna
going.
put your bells in a sling.
Alright, speaking of farragon bastards, moving along.
Yeah, the story here is weak. Like the novelty is it's a gimmick. It's gimmicky. Let's see the backstory for the notorious villain who's actually just a misunderstood hero. The actual story is weak. It's not interesting. It's done to death. It's blah. The subplot of we're dealing with the speaking animals and suddenly these are like a problem. It feels unbearably tacked on.
Yeah, can I ask a question? And I'm asking because I slept through part of this movie, so I don't know if it was explained thoroughly. Is there a rational explanation for why the wizard decided that in order to maintain his power, the animals had to be had to have their rights taken?
It's
There
not
is-
specifically said. It's very much okay. So there's a scene when that scene where Elphaba displays her magic at Shiz and Nessa Rose in the chair goes flying. There's this one of the things that gets destroyed is
there's part of the there's a bas relief on
seal.
the wall
Yeah.
that falls and reveals the magic of talking animals were the ones who actually founded the university. And no, the long story, the short answer to your question, Mark, is no.
Oh, that's a major problem with the writing then.
The long answer is
it's an analogy.
it's a very hackneyed analogy, and the
Okay,
wizard.
but I don't care this analogy, and no shit. My problem is if you don't explain why your villain is doing what he's doing, that's poor writing.
The only thing,
and I didn't attack it because I didn't know. Because like I said, I slept through it.
The only part of it is a line that he gives where he tells Elphaba's like, "You're the one who's been suppressing all of the animals," and he says, and this line is in the trailer. Where I come from, the only real way to unite people is to give them a good enemy.
Mm-hmm.
That's so literally the only reason.
Enemy is so the enemy is the animals.
It's really, believe me, it is unbearably stupid.
Yeah, I got it. The animals are Mexicans.
Look, I would have.
The animals are Mexicans, and the wizard's building a wall. Move on.
I would have accepted his that argument if there was. Okay, rephrase. Part of what he says is, when I first arrived in Oz, everything was on fire. And I put out the fires. And yes, I am nothing but smoke and mirrors, but everything was much, much worse before I got here. And nobody seems to disagree with that sentiment. Even the people who are like, no, history, but no one's really arguing with him there. Mm-hmm. Like, things were on fire, things were fractured. He provided a sense of stability through deception.
Yes, he made the trains run on time. I got it.
So I'm willing to go with that. Mm-hmm. It is unbelievably unclear why at this juncture in time he's like, we need another enemy. So we throw the Jews in the ghetto.
Like, there's no food shortage. We have a problem with the weather. Is it,
there's a vague reference made sometime back to the Great Drought, but
yeah. Okay.
Again, this is bad writing. That's my gripe with this. Is stupid. It's just stupid.
I just thought it was left more to open to interpretation. I can't remember if the second act of the musical they explain it more.
You can get away with that when you say Sauron wants to put the world in darkness. It's very clear what he wants. He wants to put the world in darkness. Why he wants to put the world in darkness, who the fuck knows or cares? He just wants to. You can't get away with that here. Like, I want to take away the rights of the animals. But why? To serve what purpose? Because I want to make the world dark. Okay, you're doing a very generally evil thing because you are the spirit of evil. It's not the same. It's being treated the same. It's not the same.
It's not the same.
Was I the only one awake in English class in 9th grade?
These days, yes. But you're right. It's not the same, and it's a giant problem with the writing. That's kind of it for me. I don't have a whole lot to say. Again, I found that subplot and that weird. It's just so stupid. It's tacked on, and it doesn't. It serves as nothing more than an excuse to make the wizard look more evil. And I don't know why we needed that. I don't know what purpose it's supposed to serve. I don't know. Again, like the whys of some of these decisions are just baffling to me because it doesn't help anything. It doesn't enrich the story. It just drags it on.
Well, it is the incentive for Elphaba. I mean, in the musical number, The Wizard and I, she talks about how her greatest wish is to have the wizard remove her green skin.
Right.
But after she sees what's happened to her goat professor, side note, loved hearing Peter Dinklage as the voice. He's always awesome. She says, you know what, actually, I really want you. It's like, I don't want my skin degreened anymore. I want you to help with this cause. And it is through seeing the torture that the monkeys go through when their wings sprout. God, I just realized how high I must sound saying that.
Well,
You are nearly as high as whoever wrote this.
Your whole explanation I'm struggling with, because we get why it's there. The problem is in the movie, it's not expressly stated in any way where narratively it makes sense. Like we all get that, like, that's the impetus for her to do what she does, and then she defies gravity. Yeah, we got it. My problem was go ahead.
So, I guess my argument is, it's obvious it's an analogy for prejudice. Why do we need it stated more clearly? Forgive me, but I thought it was pretty obvious.
Because this is a world. Because this is a world that, in other respects, is free of it, and it's really dumb. It's actually one of my gripes about her. Like, oh, the green-skinned girl is the subject of derision. Like,
you want
guys,
another analogy? They explained why the Hunger Games why they were doing the Hunger Games. Okay, it's said at the beginning of the movie why we're doing the Hunger Games, and so as an audience, you're like, okay, I understand why we're doing this now. It's you don't have to tell me the Hunger Games is bad. I can see it's bad. I'm an audience member, so watching the hero undo the Hunger Games and fight against it, we're with you the whole way. It's hard to be with Elba when you don't know why the wizard is doing what he's doing to the animals, and then she, like, okay, we get it. You're halfway decent person, and you favor the animals, and you don't want them hurt. Cool, we're with you as an audience member, just like we were with Jennifer Lawrence. But again, it would have been nice to have a clear motivation from your villain as to why he's villaining.
Also, if you're going to try and do the allegory for prejudice, I'm not opposed, for the record, I'm not opposed to it. It's a fine subject to tackle. Creating a world where everything except the one thing that you decide is going to be the most, like, advantageous for your emotional manipulation of the audience is fine. Nobody actually bats an eye at the talking animals until we get to the school, at which point we're told there's rumblings off in the countryside about animals being driven out of Oz into the impassable desert, which is actually impassable. Even the monkeys can't fly over it. I remember that. I forget which one of the books it comes up in, but it's one of them. It's just badly expressed. Like, oh no, everyone's mean to Elphaba. Like, a green woman is not the weirdest thing you see in the land of Oz by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, the
drinker made that same point. Like, we have a bear as a nanny, but your problem is the green skin woman.
There's a lot of stuff like that just really makes it all kind of fall a little bit flat.
All right, I got real quick so we can move this on and get to the money.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say the actress's name, because I want to make a point of saying it's really just the characters. But Glinda and Elphaba are literally two different women that I have met 1,000 times. You have one
broadly painted.
You have one who's a twat who will sell her soul to receive attention and validation, and that's all she wants. Has no moral compass. There's nothing about her. She's just like, whatever I need to do to receive acknowledgement, validation, and attention as possible.
As insubstantial as the cotton candy she's wearing.
And then you have another one who never matured past the age of 10. And I know this because I've had to hear these same arguments from both my daughter when she was 10 and my son currently, which reminds me of the phrase, if you're young and not a liberal, you have no heart. If you're old and not a conservative, you have no brain. And here we have this woman who can't read a room, has no ability to maneuver her way in a tense political situation, and just goes, you're the one hurting the animals, and sets everything on fire and jumps out a window. And I'm looking at her again, when you're 10 and you have a very clear black and white sense of right and wrong, that's fine. You should. You're developing as a human. When you're in your 20s and you're still that same idiot, it's fucking hard for me to watch or sympathize with. And the fact of the matter is, I know 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds, 80-year-olds who have not aged past the age of 10 and do the same goddamn thing. And I'm like, no wonder this movie is fucking so popular. It's half this goddamn country.
More than half, for the record.
I was being polite.
You were being optimistic, is what you were being.
All right. You want to add to that at all? Because, you and me on these things tend to be somewhat copacetic. I
hadn't considered their characterization in the way that you just articulated, but I don't think you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's
hard for me to. I think it's why I didn't say this before, and I probably should have. I was thinking about my top 10 again. I'm like, oh, okay, is this a top 10 movie? It's probably one of the, as far as the major mainstream big budgeted movies, it's one of the better ones made this year. So maybe it'll make my top 10. The most enjoyed, no, because I want to punch both of these women in the fucking face. And it's hard for me to cheer. I don't want to cheer Elphaba. She's an asshole. And I don't want to cheer Glinda. She's an asshole. They're just two different assholes. The problem is I've met these assholes my entire goddamn life.
Which one did you date more?
Huh?
So which one of them did you date more?
Ooh, that's a great question. Talk to you about it after the show, Toots.
Because he knows. He actually doesn't know which type he gravitates towards.
I do have a certain type.
But I think you're right in the sense that this is a movie that, I mean, I'm very upfront about this. This is not for me. Nothing about this movie is for me. Never would have watched it if we weren't reviewing it, and I watched it expressly because I'm a reliable professional to a fault.
You are, and I treasure you for it. I will tolerate your nonsense and disrespect till I'm dead because of it.
Again, to a fault, I am reliable because it makes me easy to take advantage of. Not a shot at you. Every boss I've ever had. Every one of them. Every single one of them.
All right, wrap it up, sweetie.
But I think you're right. It does become very difficult to have a rooting interest in this because Elphaba's journey is every stupid journey we've seen over the last 5 to 10 years where the only thing holding me back was me. I had to overcome myself, and then the power was in me all along, and I'm just that awesome, and now I can do anything.
I can't remember which one it was. Doesn't really matter. But the guys from Critically Acclaimed compared her to a YA heroine. Which, great. My daughter's reading Wicked now. She's loving it. Good. She's fucking 13. Your whole thing before about be better, and I've completely given up on humanity. So I don't have that expectation. I'm just kind of rolling with the punches at this point. But I do sympathize with the idea of this is written for tweens, and the population, maturity wise, hasn't aged intellectually, emotionally, hasn't aged past the age of tween. So yeah.
And that, in a nutshell, is some of my frustration with this. Look, I have the same frustration with Marvel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I forget who said it because it wasn't me the first time, but somebody said it about Marvel movies, and it changed the way I looked at them, and it alleviated a lot of my frustration and gained me a few new ones. But Marvel movies are movies for 10-year-olds. They're movies for kids. The 20-year-olds are what's going to drive a lot of the ticket sales and whatnot. But those are movies aimed squarely at children. And if you enjoy that, I'm not here to throw shade at you. If you can't enjoy something that's a bit more challenging intellectually, emotionally, and whatnot, then I weep for you and I wish for you to improve yourself. But those two things are not mutually exclusive. And this is another story that emotionally is aimed at children. And frankly, personally, I'm more than a little bit over that trend.
All right, having now insulted all of our audience, and I think we did a brilliant job of that. Bravo. You know what, Robert? I think between you and I, we've managed to piss off just about everybody, maybe even possibly Alexis, and for that, I think we deserve this. These are for you, McNulty. And with that said, here comes the money.
We're in the money. We're in the money.
I'm in such a good mood now.
Well, your color's improved, so we'll take that.
Leave my hypertension alone. It's done.
Wow. Moana held.
Yeah. Despite what we said about it, man.
I thought those two would switch. I really did.
All right, well, propriety is a thing. On a budget of 150 million reasonable dollars, this thing has made almost 460 million dollars at the time of recording. We're 3 weeks from the debut of this thing, which was November 22nd. Where are we at now? Tickets for Wicked went on sale October 9th, 2024, the day after Paramount Pictures released their tickets for Gladiator 2. On October 10th, Fandango reported that the film became the site's number 2 first-day ticket pre-seller of 2024 behind Marvel Studios' Deadpool and Wolverine, as well as the best PG-rated first-day ticket pre-seller of the year and the number 3 best PG-rated first-day ticket pre-seller of all time behind Frozen 2 and the 2019 remake of The Lion
qualifiers on that.
Yeah,
everybody.
That was a mouthful, she said. According to Deadline, Hollywood, Quorum projected Wicked to gross $67.74 million in its domestic opening weekend, while Box Office Theory projected it would gross up to $150 million, and Box Office Pro projected it would be $125 million, topping the box office ahead of Gladiator 2. Initial skepticism was directed towards the notion the film's post-pandemic would not be profitable. By the week of its release, projections were raised to almost $200 million worldwide, with positive word of mouth in the film's award season buzz cited as the reasons. As of December 8th, in the year of our Lord 2024, Wicked has grossed $320.5 million in the U.S. and Canada and $135 million in other territories, for a worldwide total of $455.6 million.
So, for the record,
yes, sir.
We're still not quite profitable when you factor in advertising for this thing.
It'll get there.
I'm not saying it won't. I'm saying you and a lot of people said this was $1 billion property. Or $1 billion picture.
We still got to get through Christmas, and people go to the movies during Christmas. And it's not like we're going to see fucking Mufasa.
I was going to say, I'm arguing that it may be $1 billion property, but it will not be $1 billion property by the end of the year. This thing's going to need to milk it for the winter months before it gets there.
I was going to say, much like Spider-Man a few years ago, it's not like it's got a lot of competition in January.
If this does get there, it's going to. I'm fully of the opinion it's going to barely get there at this point. Because we're talking more than double where it is now 3 weeks out. That's a fairly big ask in these days.
Well, don't forget, we did discuss that it is going to get a re-release on Christmas with a sing-along edition, which a lot of people have been waiting for.
The ex is already making plans to take the daughter. So all that money times it by 2. Camps over Christmas will take kids to go see. You gotta understand, this is a PG movie, Robert. When looking for things to take a group of kids to, at camps over Christmas while parents are working, or family outings or whatever, especially if there's a sing-along version, that a sing-along is an event. And we keep talking about how the way to save the theaters is to create events. You personally may not enjoy going to a sing-along and would be caught dead at one. But these things make money. They sell.
There would be death. It just wouldn't be mine. Not down at that location.
Good takeaway, asshole. Anyway,
look, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying that the re-release is certainly going to help.
Yeah.
But after that opening weekend, there were a lot of predictions about this rocketing up the charts and the box office totals for the year, and it's not doing that.
Okay, that's a fair thing to say based on evidence. I think kind of like what we were with Elemental, this thing's going to have long legs.
My hunch is you're correct. I think that it will. But $150 million budget First of all, that's probably underreported. So tack on another 12, just as a general industry standard.
Mm-hmm.
Then factor in how much they spent advertising this thing.
Yeah. Ooh, excuse me.
They put this in a lot of places. Like there was.
Yeah, I'm also not sure where it hasn't debuted yet, but it's like, no, there's
nowhere else to go.
Well,
it's out.
Oh, it's okay. It's out everywhere because I wasn't sure if it made it to China yet, and I was just gonna say there's no
what
gay
would
kiss, and so it's good for most of Asia.
Well, that will actually. This is very.
Oh no, they don't like witches. I forgot about that.
Well, they don't like. They also don't like subverting the government. So
Perfect.
Chinese way made, just like nope all over this one.
All right, let me get through this. In the U.S. and Canada, Wicked made $46.47 million on its first day, which includes $19.2 million from preview screenings in the week leading up to its release. $2.5 million on Monday, $5.7 million on Wednesday, and $11 million on Thursday. It debuted $112.5 million in the U.S. and Canada, and $162.9 million worldwide, topping both respective box offices. It was the largest opening ever for a film based on a Broadway musical, surpassing the $31.1 million domestic opening of Into the Woods, and the $103 million worldwide.
First of all,
opening
we have
of
to
Les
go back
Miserables.
what, 10 years for Into the Woods?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
The following Thursday,
inflation during that time has been a bit of a bitch. I'm just saying.
The following Thursday, the film made $16.9 million, the second best Thanksgiving Day behind Moana 2, which was released the day prior. It then grossed $32 million on Black Friday. It went on to gross $80 million in its second weekend, dropping just 29% and finishing second behind Moana 2. At the end of the holiday weekend, it reached over $250 million domestically, making it the highest grossing stage musical to screen adaptation of all time in the U.S. and Canada, beating the $190 million lifetime domestic gross of Greece. Freddie, my love! Freddie, my love! Freddie, my love!
I would love to see if that holds if we adjusted Greece for inflation. Just saying.
Beauty School Dropout. Alexis, did you know, Alexis, that when I do karaoke, one of the songs that's a staple in my repertoire is Beauty School Dropout?
I did not know that.
You should come. If you ever come to Tampa, or if I ever come to Kansas, we should do karaoke, and I'll do Beauty School Dropout for you.
I live on the Missouri side, you idiot.
Good takeaway, you asshole.
It's like, how many times do I have to tell you I don't live in Kansas?
I don't listen to you. I don't know why that surprises you.
Hang on. In fairness, we're talking the Wizard of Oz. If this is our first slip up for Kansas, I'm going to call that a win 90 minutes into the podcast.
In its third weekend, the film made $34.9 million. I had a coworker today who actually called me out on that. It's like, you don't listen to women much, do you? And I'm like, what now? What'd you say? I don't know. I guess Don's a friend of yours, Alexis. I don't know if you know this Don person, but he's
if I do, I'm sorry, I'm not recognizing the name off the top of my head.
I assumed it was a friend, so I misspoke. But I like this. She's not in Kansas anymore. Thanks, Don. Thank you for playing the home game. All right, we can finish this.
Yeah.
And his third week.
Sorry, it's a serious issue for those of us who live in Kansas City. We get really annoyed when people put us on the wrong
west
state.
of New York. Nobody gives a fuck. In its third weekend, the film made $34.9 million, remaining in second. Wicked's running worldwide total of $455.5 million worldwide also surpassed the $442.8 million lifetime gross of Les Miserables, a truly beautiful musical, as the highest-grossing Broadway adaptation of all time. All right, Robert, did you ever read the original? I believe it's Victor Hugo novel. Speaking of things the size of phone books, Les Miserables.
I want to say yes, but I couldn't swear to it. It's one of those things I would have read.
I was going to say, it's one of those things that you either read for school or you read because you have nothing else to do for the next 3 months.
I know you just spent 12 hours letting us know how much you hate musicals and all of that. I'd be curious to see if you'd ever watched the musical for Les Miserables based on having read the book.
Do you
it's a yes or no question.
Hang on. Do you mean the movie adaptation, which I have seen and I think we reviewed?
No, we've never reviewed any version of Les Miserables.
Okay, because I have seen the version of the musical version, Hugh Grant, Anne Hathaway, and
you mean Hugh Jackman?
Hugh Jackman, thank you.
I actually haven't seen that one. I've seen it on Broadway and loved it brought me to tears.
I've
But
seen it
never,
3 times on stage. It's gorgeous.
yeah, it's I would say Les Miserables is probably my favorite musical of all time.
It's yeah, I very much in that one. I'm fine with. There's a few. Look, I generally don't care much for musical theater. No, no
Mhm.
shade, just not my thing.
Sure.
There's a few that break through that mold, though. I'm not.
That's kind of why I centered on this one, because it's one of those where you're a smart guy, you like art. It might be worth. I mean, Les Miserables is like a staple of musical theater. It's one of those
Oh, yeah.
where
As long as you're willing to put up with Russell Crowe in that adaptation.
it ascends.
I can live with him.
It ascends past the genre. Is my point. It's worth watching some version of the stage musical. I'm not saying you have to watch the Russell Crowe movie. I'm saying some iteration of the stage musical is worth giving a look. See, I don't expect you to go to New York to see Les Miserables.
I think there is a version available on YouTube that's the original
Probably.
cast performing the songs. I can't remember what it's called. It's a version where you have the original cast singing, but they're singing with a live orchestra. They're not actually doing the acting. There's no sets. There's no props or anything. They may be in costume.
No, yeah. So just the concert. I
Yeah,
think is the way to
exactly.
phrase
I
that.
think there is a Les Mis concert available on YouTube with the original cast.
And if you can find a copy of some video of the stage musical, it's worth a look. See, it's all I'm saying.
What's the other one I've seen? There's
Have you seen Sweeney Todd?
yeah, that's the other one because on YouTube it's not the because the first guy for the Broadway version who played Sweeney Todd was Len Cairo, and this is the second one who's a bit more famous, whose name I can't remember for the life of me.
Right.
But not
again-
wait, the one with Angela Lansbury?
Oh yeah, still Angela Lansbury.
Yeah. Oh, she's
And
amazing.
like I said, I would not beat this drum for Rent for you. I certainly wouldn't tell you to go see Cats. I wouldn't wish Cats are my worst fucking enemy.
That's not true. I know who your enemies are. You would wish Cats on them.
It'd be fun.
I'd like to remind you, Mark, of that bet that you made about Cats breaking a record when the movie version was released.
I'm saying there aren't. Come to think of it, there are definitely people I would like to see molested by furries to the musical set the musical theater. So yeah, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend Jekyll and Hyde either. I'm trying to think of what else I've seen that I also would not recommend to you. Or if there's something I would, and I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
I think you guys would. I wonder if you would get a kick out of Beetlejuice the musical.
Ugh.
I don't know. I might.
Okay, so I saw that at the Fox Theater in St. Louis
Mhm.
for my birthday last year, and it's now touring in Kansas City. Next year in January, I'm taking my best friend to go see it because Andre doesn't want to go see it again. I have a handful of the original songs saved on my phone. I adore Alex Brightman singing as Beetlejuice. I think he's an amazing singer, and I love the role. And I thought the stage production
I like
was great.
Spam a lot too, but
I love Spam a lot.
I wouldn't tell Robert break your thing against musical theater to go see Spam a lot. I'm talking about what's the best of the best here. And
I thought we were just talking about ones we thought he'd like. I'm sorry. I missed
you
the
guys
memo.
you haven't quite gone back far enough. When I'm in a comedic mood, it's hard to do better than HMS Pinafore.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you why Gilbert and Sullivan kind of resonates with me comedically, but they do.
Have you ever seen the Pirates of Penzance?
No, that's the one I haven't. That's I think one of the few ones of theirs that I've missed. I like
love that
1776.
I love the Pirates of Penzance, the movie version. I love the Pirates of Penzance.
I might have to.
What
give that one
about West Side Story? Either version.
a-
I don't see that being Robert Speed. Miss Saigon,
No,
Chicago.
no. I didn't even see the movie adaptation of that one that year. Actually, I missed it.
All right.
Funny thing happened on the way to the forum.
All right. Moana maintains its spot as the #1 movie in the world.
63% drop is pretty steep, but it also opened quite big. So
Yeah, second week running, Wicked maintained its spot at #2. Third week running, Gladiator maintained its spot at #3. There is no room at the top here for breathing. 3 weeks running, Pushpa debuted at #4. Red 1 dropped from 4 to 5.
Oof.
Interstellar debuted at 6.
I am so sad I missed that. I wasn't able to get over to the IMAX theater to watch that one.
Solo Leveling debuted at 7. For King and Country, a Drummer Boy Christmas Live, its Fathom event debuted at #8. Y2K.
Bombed.
I was gonna say that's in its wide release, isn't it?
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, the rare miss from A24. For
No,
major
they miss a
release,
fair bit.
for a major release. Renee Ziegler not having a good year. That debuted
Rachel,
at number
not
9.
Renee, but
Who gives a fuck? The best
I-
Christmas pageant ever.
only because I'm pedantic do I correct you on that one. I don't care about her either.
Drop from 5 to 10. Werewolves, speaking of bombs, debuted at 11. The Order, 12. Wifey's a Night at Symphony, Hollywood Bowl, 13. RM, Right People, Wrong Place, debuted at 14. Venom, 7 weeks out, dropped from 7 to 15. Bonhoeffer, 3 weeks out, dropped from 6 to 16. Flow, must have had a wide release.
Yeah.
3
Mhm.
weeks out, jumped from 20 to 17. Queer, which is getting Oscar buzz, 2 weeks out, dropped
It's
from
not
14
going to get any
18.
Oscars, but yeah, of course it's getting buzz.
The Return debuted at 19, and rounding out the top 20 is A Real Pain, which dropped from 10 to 20. Other debuts this weekend were Standing on the Shoulders of Kitties, Getaway, O Canada, Day of the Flight, The End, The Girl with the Needle. All right.
I was
Obsessed.
gonna say, has anyone heard of half of these?
Not even a little bit. Obsessed with Light, Lake George, Hounds, You Are Not Me, and that was the weekend that was. Worldwide. Well, they have to have movement now. Yeah, oh my God, Moana has shot up to number 5.
Yeah, the movement is not coming from the place you think.
Yeah. So the first 4 are exactly what they've been since the summer. Inside Out, Deadpool, Despicable Me 4, and Dune. Moana has shot to number 5 at almost 600 million. Which
Still got 100 and change to beat Dune Part 2, but at this point, I think it probably does.
Godzilla multiplied by Kong dropped to 6.
Okay, serious question. Does Moana 2 get past Despicable Me 4?
No.
At this point, I tend to think that's a big ask. Again, we were talking about double what it is right now.
I don't think it will.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Like I said, until Sonic, there's nothing for that age cohort. So it's
gonna get by. It's gonna get by Dune Part 2, I think, fairly easily.
Mm-hmm.
But we've talked about it for a while. That jump from 4 to 3 this year is almost $300 million. Like, that's a big jump.
I was talking about an hour ago. We were talking about feeding the desires of the public. There seems to be an appetite for whatever it is Moana 2 is selling. So maybe. I mean, let's put it this way.
In front of.
Well, that's the thing. Like you mock that, but like
I'm not trying to mock it. I'm trying to express it. Like
I didn't think Inside Out 2 was going to make $1 billion this year, and we said when it did, clearly I don't think people want to hate Disney. I understand the critical drinker wing of the internet does for a variety of reasons. These people are fucking butthurt and their feelings are sore, but I would say most humans love Disney, revere it. It was a part of their life like it's a goddamn religion, and they don't want to hate the thing. So when Disney stops fucking around and does something like Inside Out 2, it's rewarded. People come flocking. So I think Moana 2 is riding that wave. That's my theory.
I don't think
I will
you're
say
wrong.
that I will say I think we predicted at the beginning of the year that Deadpool and Wolverine was going to be the only movie that would cross $1 billion. I don't think we predicted Inside Out 2.
No.
I thought it was going to bomb at the time. I'll stand by that. Robert, you were starting to say something?
No, just pointing out again. I think Moana 2 is going to be fine, but getting north of 900 million, I think, is probably going to be a bridge too far for it.
All right. So Kung Fu Panda dropped to 7. Venom firmly at number 8. Wicked, 3 weeks in, has now beaten Beetlejuice. It is at number 9, and Beetlejuice rounds out your top 10. Out of the top 10 are now Bad Boys, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Twisters. Gladiator 2 has risen to 14 between Twisters and Alien Romulus. Rounding out the top 20, or it ends with us, The Wild Robot, A Quiet Day, Day 1, Garfield, and Joker coming in at a paltry $206 million, but it still beat Ghostbusters Frozen
Can
Empire.
I tell you I'm a little disappointed that
I want to kick Alexis. Please kill Ghostbusters. Stop making these movies. They don't make money. Now go, Robert.
Hey, the only reason I demand more Ghostbusters movies is because I demand Ecto Cooler be available always.
You can have
at the
it
grocery
without
store.
that. You could, babe, sweetie, darling, beautiful child. You can have all the Ghostbusters paraphernalia. We don't have to have these stupid bombs of movies anymore. Go ahead, Robert.
Joker doing less than Garfield amuses me to no end.
Garfield was good.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying that the sequel to the billion-dollar cultural phenomenon that was the first Joker falling behind the Garfield movie that has, while it was perfectly fine, underperformed tickles me.
I wonder if
I'd rather Joker was still under Frozen Empire because I hated Frozen Empire, and if Joker was worse off than that, that would also amuse me to no end.
No, I'm more amused. See my rant 20 minutes ago about Arrested Development of Ghostbusters not doing as well as the most hated movie of the year. That these are for you, McNulty.
Wait, okay, hold on. What is the most hated movie of the year? Is it Joker,
It's Joker.
2, Borderlands, or The Crow?
Joker received the most pushback. Nobody liked The Crow. Nobody expected to like The Crow.
Yeah, okay. People didn't like Borderlands. It wasn't a shot at people.
The only people who are like genuinely annoyed by Borderlands are like serious fans of the video game.
Right. And same thing with The Crow. People may have not. Nobody saw The Crow, but only people who review movies saw The Crow.
Yeah.
But The Crow wasn't a shot at people. People get real offended when you take shots at them.
Hadn't noticed.
So, people got real upset with Joker because they're like, hey, everyone turns into Joe Pesci. You making fun of me? This about me? And now it's the most hated movie of the year, and it still did better than Frozen Empire.
Yeah, Joker absolutely drove the most vitriol.
For sure.
The others might have been worse in a lot of respects, but
so this weekend, all of these movies have some not competition. They have War of the Rohirrim, and then we have Kraven the Hunter, and I don't think either one's biting into Moana 2, Gladiator 2, or Wicked.
they'll bite into Gladiator 2 because it's a stupid movie, but the other two, no.
I don't know. I think Kraven the Hunter is going to bomb pretty hard. Did you see they released the first 8 minutes of that movie on YouTube?
I did not, nor am I going to watch it.
Yeah.
Let's face it, the only reason anybody wants to go see that movie is so they could stare at Aaron Taylor Johnson's ripped body.
Yeah, let's continue to objectify not only the male body, but what you have to go through physically in order to look like that. And I mean all the drugs and then all the weight cutting.
Box Office Pro threw out there that they don't know who War of the Rohirrim is supposed to be. Like, who's the audience for this? Like, and it was so funny because the guy clearly not a Lord of the Rings fan was like, I don't even know how you pronounce this. And like someone was like, it's Rohirrim.
Okay, well, yeah, at that point you're deliberately ignorant.
Yeah. I like the Box Office Pro podcast. I'm not going to throw shade at them. And the guy that runs it, seems like a very nice fellow, very knowledgeable. Clearly, Lord of the Rings is not his thing. But I think he asked a legitimate question. Who is this for? You did this in an anime style.
Yeah, that's a very fair question.
Yeah.
That movie reeks to me of was originally designed straight to Prime or something like that. Was a streaming
without
movie.
Question. I honestly thought the first trailer, so I'm like, okay, Netflix.
Yeah,
I can tell you why War of the Rohirrim is going to bomb. Because it was clearly designed for women, adult women, chronologically adult women who like manga and anime. And there's a lot of them out there. Women in their 20s, 30s, 40s love the shit out of anime. They do. And this was designed for them. So here we have a big, strong girl boss. We got the anime style that you like. It's Lord of the Rings. You like that fantasy that the boys like, right? So we're giving you all the things you nerd girls like. And I said it before, and I'll say it again. Girls like the same stuff that boys like when they like that stuff. They don't need it tailored for them. They don't want it tailored for them.
this is a little bit like going, oh, you like chocolate. I mean, who doesn't like chocolate? Oh, you also like smoking. So how about we put some tobacco in your chocolate?
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
These two things do not go together.
No. So I think this is a wild misread of women who enjoy the fantasy genre and Lord of the Rings specifically, and anime. And it's
I don't think you're wrong.
can we not hire some people in these companies that sort of watchdog this stuff? So, basically do what I'm doing, but do it for money instead of whining into the internet like I'm currently doing.
They need that the same way that like the graphic design team for McDonald's and Starbucks needs one 10-year-old boy. Show the 10-year-old boy your design. If he starts laughing, you screwed up somewhere.
My son is available for hire, and God, I have bills to pay. All right. So yeah, I don't think either one takes a major bite out of our current three leaders in the film industry. After that, we've got the 20th is Sonic the Hedgehog and Mufasa. We're doing Sonic first, and I think that's going to be the major winner of that weekend. I think between
Sonic's
now and Christmas, Sonic the Hedgehog is the next big hit movie.
Pretty easily, and I think Mufasa's going to bomb.
I'm this close to canceling that review. Let me tell you, I haven't texted you about it.
It's like I pray that movie bombs.
There's a party that night, and I almost would rather go to the party than have to put us all through. Like, my kids don't want to go see it. You don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. I threw it on the schedule because I throw everything on the schedule, and I think it's going to bomb, and I think nobody's going to like it. Like, at this point, I'm wondering why we're still doing this.
Then cancel it.
Wait till we get closer, see if anything changes between now and then. That's not a decision you have to make right now.
No, and I'm probably not going to make it because despite saying all of that, I am an elephant faithful 100%. But I'm just thinking out loud for
no. Here's my only request for you of cancellation.
Yeah.
Tell me before I see the movie. That's all I ask.
Don't wait till Monday at 6 like everybody else does to me.
More or less. Unless you have a serious health issue, in which case I will completely understand.
No, I'm going to leave it on the schedule. Let's see this through. It's like, we're going to be Jyn Erso and Rogue One. Let's just get this over with. We are documentarians of the declining film industry, and this by itself is an event of that nature.
We should start reclassifying ourselves as historiographers when it comes to what we're doing here.
What do you review movies? No, we're historiographers.
We are cultural film historiographers, that's what we talk about.
So, the guy that throws these parties a couple times a month, it's weird that he's throwing this one on a Monday, which fucked me up. But I'll wait until he throws another one on a Tuesday or a Thursday, like he's done in the past, and we will see this through. But like I said, I came close. I came close to texting you about it and be like, why are we doing this still? This is the worst. But
it looks pretty bad. And speaking of like deconstructing everything that was good about the original, here's Mufasa.
Well, I was gonna say, it could be a contender for worst movie of the year, and then I'll have that I can replace Night Swim.
I haven't finalized my lists yet, so I'm still waiting for several of the stuff we're going to do. But
yes.
I hate to say it. Not that I don't think Mufasa is going to be terrible. I'm pretty sure it will, but the songs are by Lin-Manuel Miranda, and I think that's just going to barely edge it over.
I would like to remind you that a person who is a professional music theater person thinks Lin-Manuel Miranda is an overblown fucking.
He is.
just thinks he's got.
He's He is a one-trick pony. Let's be real upfront about that. He does one
I
thing.
respect the fact that you enjoy him. Clearly, he makes crowd-appealing stuff. But the one podcast I did with Melissa's friend, who, when I was asking her about her opinion on Lin-Manuel Miranda, went on a Robert/Khrushchev-esque rant on the guy. Still tickles me to this day.
Look, again, I'm not saying he's not successful. I'm not saying anything that I'm saying he's a one-trick pony.
And people do like that one trick. All right. Speaking of one-trick ponies.
Well, they don't.
Here we go.
Sorry, I like his music or earworms, okay? And it makes me happy.
You're allowed to like what you like, but I have to also comment that people, who study this sort of thing are not duly impressed. That's all I'm saying. You're entitled to like what you like.
He's going to go 10 more years from now. He's going to be regarded as one of the great monsters of musical theater. I'm fairly convinced.
Just like Danny Elfman. And with that said,
and George Lucas.
Wait, no, you said musical theater. I thought you were going to follow that up with just like Andrew Lloyd Webber.
No, I
No,
got
I like
nothing
Andrew Lloyd
major
Webber.
against Andrew Lloyd Webber.
However, Danny Elfman, I want to stick in the garbage can where he keeps the instruments he rolls down a fucking hill to make his music.
But Danny Elfman has nothing to do with musical theater.
No, he doesn't. But I can't go a podcast now without beating up on Danny Elfman.
we appreciate it.
All right, here's something else we appreciate: the critical review.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Alrighty.
That's about right.
Yep, 96% on the audience score, 88% on the tomato meter. All critics, it's exactly the same. All audience, it's 93%. Verified, it's 96%. And the AI writes, oh, there's two of these. I have to do both of them. Defying Gravity, with its magical pairing of Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, wicked sheer bravura, and charm make for an irresistible invitation to Oz.
I very much could have resisted this. I couldn't resist Mark putting the gun to the back of my head.
And the audience says, fly, do not run to see Wicked, a bewitching musical experience chanted by a spellbinding cast. You get the government that you deserve, people. All right.
Everyone except two of the people in this cast could have been replaced and no one would have noticed. Don't put the cast on a pedestal here.
Clara Cucaracha in Review Online. While Erivo and Grande pull their weight as performers, both vocally and otherwise, Chu fails to match their energy. Okay.
That's a very specific complaint that I don't know why they pulled from.
The future ex Mrs. Alexis Hejna, Amy Nicholson of Film Week, KPCC, NPR Los Angeles top critic. Drags and drags and drags.
But enough about the volunteers to the local library. What about the movie?
Oh
I
my
was
God,
just
so
staring
fun.
at the costumes and saying, "Can this end?" Oh, Amy, you poor dear.
I was too, but you got to be a little bit more. That's a bit too like personal experience and not enough craft.
Parallel Universe Black Robert Winfree, Armand White of National Review. Director John Chu's frenetic, exaggerated digital era hack work collides with the updated message. Wicked is simultaneously a campy parody and a corruption of Baum's popular story.
Wow. Tell us how you
Okay.
really feel, dude.
I
Okay.
love Armand White.
I appreciate the bitterness seeping out of his pores. I really do. I've got
like
to say
wine.
though, hang on, I must bring this up. Baum's books aren't that popular. Most people haven't read the first one, much less the rest. Most people don't know how many liberties are taken with the original movie for that story. Giant liberties. The people who actually do care about this stuff consider that movie nothing but bad fanfic. And I don't agree, but I understand where they're coming from.
Edwin Arnaudin of Asheville Movies. At least it's better than the stage musical. No, sir, it isn't. No, sir.
I find that very difficult to believe. The stage musical would have ended 20 minutes before part 1 did.
Doug Walker of Channel Awesome, you monster. Fans of the musical, crack myself up. Fans of the musical and musicals in general will no doubt enjoy it, and he can see Russia from his house.
Actually, I hate to say it, Doug Walker got mentioned, and I cannot find if this source is true, but on IMDb, there's a page that said John Chu wanted Jeff Goldblum to play the wizard because there's a running joke on the Nostalgia Critic reviews that when he talks about Jeff Goldblum, he calls him the Wizard of Oz.
Hollywood is a stupid place.
Like I said, I cannot find any source that whether or not Chu said that or not, but I just thought that was too freaking funny.
Okay, hang on. Somebody tweeted this, man. We need confirmation of this, or if this is just like weird Hollywood. There are weird Hollywood rumors that turn out to be true all the time. One of my favorite came across my feed the other day, and it involves Bill Murray.
Linda Cook of our Quad Cities, WHB-TV, Illinois. It's wickedly entertaining.
Someone's trying to get a job writing ad copy, and it kind of
I was going to say, Tick Bird.
No, apparently, because Bill Murray is good friends with the guy who was married to Kelly Lynch. So anytime Roadhouse is on TBS, when it gets to the scene where Patrick Swayze and Kelly Lynch are in his room, he would call this man and go, just wanted to tell you as a friend, you should turn on TBS right now. Because that son of a bitch Patrick Swayze is putting it to your wife and wouldn't identify himself. Just to troll his friend, like, hey, turn on the TV and watch your wife.
Walter Chaw, Film Freak Central. Wicked is a laboratory creation machine tooled to tweak the unearned tingle like a twigged-out harpist flailing against hormonal strings.
Okay,
You really get the idea that there are some people on here who didn't know this was originally a book. They just think that, again, what did you call it? They think it's bad fan fiction.
That is a tortured metaphor, sir, and you will be brought to The Hague to stand trial for that one. That's a war crime, what you just did.
Speaking of being brought before a court for war crimes, Kevin Carr, a fat guy at the movies.
He's not making it to the courthouse.
Along with eye-popping production design and a handful of fantastic songs, as well as too much padded exposition. This is everything the Broadway fan wants. The Achilles heel is the punishing 2 hours and 41-minute running time, and that's only half the story.
You know what? Relatively fair review from Kevin Carr.
I was going to say, I see nothing wrong with what you said.
The future ex-Mrs. Robert Winfree, Dark Sky Lady of Dark Sky Lady Reviews. I'm just marrying all the bimbos to you at this point, Robert. Enjoy. Wicked is a must-watch and a rewatch, merging essential life lessons. Ugh! Ow! Oh, God, I can feel the cancer coming back.
Can I get you to retract that pairing, Mark?
No, because you're mean to me and you deserve her. Wicked is a...
The question. Okay, hang on.
And you said unkind things about my children, so you get Dark Sky Lady.
You then get to stand as a witness, as a character witness for me when I argue that she deserves what she's gonna get.
Oh, gee.
From the top, Wicked is a must-watch and a rewatch, merging essential life lessons about acceptance, equality, and justice with glittering song and dance-filled, colorful fun.
No, seriously, officer, she ran into my knife 10 times.
I put her in the garbage can with Danny Elfman and rolled her down a hill. It made beautiful music.
I don't know, officer. Last I heard, she was going to stay with her sister.
Who is Carla Renata of the Curvy Film Critic, also a future
Nice segue.
Robert Winfree.
And you know what? It's really just a crying shame about the carbon monoxide poisoning at that house that night.
Oh, God.
The world is just a worse place.
Erivo and Grande are the cinematic dynamic duo I didn't know I needed and are magically mesmerizing. Choose Direction takes this to a level my imagination couldn't even begin to comprehend. We know, stupid.
We are well aware of your head trauma, lady.
Wicked exceeded my wildest theater kid dreams. Well, that explains a lot.
I just
being
gotta
a theater kid is the least surprising thing ever.
I just got to say this, regardless of how much we may praise Choose Direction in this, that man still has not redeemed himself for Gem and the Holograms or G.I. Joe Retaliation.
No, he has not.
I think I defended G.I. Joe Retaliation. Not in an on-trial, but on a long road to ruin.
I don't know how you can defend a movie that so glibly destroys London at the end for no good reason.
They had it coming. Anyway.
I'm not arguing that point. I'm saying that's the kind of thing that if you're going to do as a movie, you really need to have some setup and payoff to that, and you didn't.
Rain
Okay, fine, but there's still no defending Gem and the Holograms. That movie needs to be burned.
What year did that come out?
Same year as one of those Paranormal Activity movies, because we did a split review on that one.
Yeah, I took my daughter to go see Gem and the Hologram. She enjoyed it, but she was...
And the fact that 30% of it is social media YouTube clips.
2015.
Lazy.
There you go. So she would have been... Oof. She would have been 4. That makes sense. Rain Jokinan of mullingmovies.com. There is so much in the movie to marvel at. Ugh. with sets that take inspiration from Gothic, Venetian, and Moorish, and costumes that will make both Barbie girls and Gothy girls. Ow! God damn it, the cancer! Envious. At times, it almost feels overwhelming.
Rain just really wanted to show off that art history degree.
Yeah.
And I know this because I had to take a test in my art history class about all those terms she just dropped.
Alexis's
Ditto.
favorite
Past AP
reviewer.
history. Or AP art history.
Alexis'
History,
favorite
too.
reviewer and thinks this man is an absolute genius and an inspiration to film people far and wide. Jeremy Johns of jeremyjohns.com. A good time.
A useless review.
You can call me a dick now, Alexis.
I already called you an idiot. I'm done insulting you.
Fair enough. All right. Speaking of being done insulting people, we're done with this podcast. This week, Alexis and Jesse and I will be talking Only Murders in the Building for about an hour, and then I got to go back to work.
Are you spending your lunch break or something?
Kinda. Thursday, Robert, Mick, in theory, and I will be talking Strange Darling, Cuckoo, and The Substance. Next week,
And Cuckoo. There's 3 movies on that list.
I said
Just
that.
remember, The Substance, according to the Golden Globes, is a musical or comedy.
I laughed. That's all I can say.
This Sunday is the first of 2 Christmas shows for the season. First, it'll be myself and Jesse and Mick Wanamaker yet again. We're talking Hot Frosty, Our Little Secret, and Dear Santa.
Somehow, Hot Frosty is the holiday hit this year on Netflix.
Certainly is. And then next
You
Monday,
saw the pitch
It's a
meeting, right?
Yeah.
it's a so bad it's good kind of hit.
Anyway, next Monday we'll be talking Craven the Hunter. Alexis, in theory, is doing a podcast review.
If
Penguin.
Wicked didn't kill me, Craven the Hunter might.
Thursday, a week from this Thursday, the 18th, I will be on Movies That Don't Suck and Some That Do, having to relive the trauma that will be Craven the Hunter, but also talk Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim. And then Thursday, we got a Metal Hammer of Doom Jukebox, which is the second of our Christmas shows. We're going to be spending our Christmas with Body Count. Check out the show. I actually did a song about it. It'll be myself, Robert Cooper, Mick Wanamaker. We're reviewing the new Body Count album, Merciless, and all of our Christmas tidings. So that's what's going on with me. What's going on with you, Alexis?
I caught you mentioning the Penguin. Did you mention Only Murders in the Building on Wednesday? I didn't hear
He
that.
did.
He did? Okay. I'm sorry. I missed that part.
Yes, I said it was during my lunch break.
Sorry.
I made the lunch break joke. I wasn't sure if it was legit.
No, looking forward. I'm finally finishing that series right now. Absolutely loving it. Freaking scene with Steve Martin, Eugene Levy, and Richard Kind all talking to each other and cracking jokes. Like this scene is a national treasure
I have
in
to
and of
say,
itself.
Steve Martin in the season finale is fucking phenomenal. Like, whatever else I thought about this season, and I have some thoughts, Steve Martin remembering that 100 years ago, he's a badass motherfucker who don't take no mess, and they got it out of 80-year-old Steve Martin. I was duly impressed while I ate my tuna fish sandwich.
Don't spoil for me. I only just wrapped up episode 3.
I assume that was around the same time he remembered that his mother wanted him to be a dentist.
Yes. And success.
Come on.
There's another musical.
I make a musical theater joke there. Yes, I did.
Yes, you did. All right, come on, finish up.
All right. So as far as the plugs that actually do pay my bills, that would be Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom at the intersection of geek and chic.
I just got this because I read it 3 times and I suddenly realized what he was referencing. He says, "Thank you for the discussion, Robert, Alexis, and Mark. I'm going out now to find the 3 Musketeers of menthol." Thanks, Don.
All right, so we did wrap up our Black Friday sale, but our charity drive is still going strong. For every order that is placed between Black Friday and Christmas Eve, we will be donating $5 to St. Jude's Children's Hospital, and I am happy to report that we have already passed last year's donation amount. So, we're doing some real good with these orders. As you can see, we've got a lot of really fun, geeky accessories, a lot of great gifts for those who love the nerdy side. Again, we have stores on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, Screw You, Twitter, and TikTok. Again, the charity drive is going until Christmas Eve. So even if you place an order, even if we can't get it to you in time for Christmas, your order will still count for that charity drive. Again, that's Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
Robert Winfree, show us where you piss from.
All right, I cover mixed martial arts and professional wrestling over at 411mania.com, so go over there if you're interested in any of that. I cover WWE SmackDown on Friday, UFC event on Saturdays. UFC 310 was this last Saturday. A decent time was had. There was some stuff that sucked, but mostly it was good. If you want an in-depth breakdown as well, tune into the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast. That'll be a good time. This last week was a review of that, a preview of the last UFC event of the year. UFC on ESPN 63. They're in Tampa, so Mark will be throwing eggs at someone. So full preview of that event as well. And yeah, Mark mentioned it, but Thursday, triple feature of Cuckoo, The Substance, and Strange Darlings. So tune in for that. I need to find a couple of those.
Yeah, I haven't started watching any of those yet, and I am behind.
So yeah, at least one of those I will watch tonight. Before I go to bed, I will fire up one of those. So tune in for that if you're interested in the triple features. We'll have a good time, and we'll see how much body horror Mark tolerates these days.
We'll see. All right, folks, thanks for joining us here on Wicked. If you actually made it through this discussion the entire way through, we salute you.
Seriously, thank you for listening.
Robert Winfree, for Alexis Hejna, I'm going to try to squeeze in a movie before bed. Be well, be safe, and behave.